Hello, and welcome to That Just Doesn't Make Sense, the Nature of Things. Episode 21. Let us talk about psychology. Today I'm going to be talking to you about psychology and the harm it has done to mankind. I can think of nothing else that has done more to crush the human spirit than psychology. I know. You're probably thinking this guy does not know what the hell he is talking about. And you know what? You could be right. But unless you can show me evidence, and before we go further, I just want to remind everyone that I am not formally educated in psychology in any way other than self-taught and reasoning out what I have learned. The reason I put it that way is because so much of the field is presented to you as a settled science when it simply is not. I'm sure there is some hard evidence somewhere for something. I live in reality, so I'm not going to stand here and tell you there is none. But here is the problem. You can take one person out of 100 who shows some measurable result, and the field will stretch that one case over all 99 and call the whole thing proven. A sample of one does not make a law for the other 99. Human nature and instinct vary from person to person. You cannot measure one and declare it a rule for everybody. Yet, that is exactly what gets done. And then it is put forward as a fact. Now, I have had the opportunity to speak with actual psychiatrists regarding my beliefs. Firstly, the glaring question that led me to my conclusions is one question that I always ask myself about anything that does not stand up to reasoning. What did we do before? Sounds like a simple question, but it turns out to be a question that always stops pushback in its tracks. Why? I believe it is because the question must be answered. And without fail, to this date, no one has answered it. As a matter of fact, the conversation almost always comes to an end, or the subject gets changed because the last conversation became uncomfortable and uneasy. Think about that. Human beings handled grief, handled fear, handled anger, and even madness for thousands of years before anyone invented a name of it. So when I ask what we did before, I am really asking, did psychology fill a hole that was actually there? Or did it name something that was already part of us and then sell it back to us as expert knowledge of we suddenly could not live without? I just typed into the Google search bar the question, why is psychology accepted as fact? Here is the response from AI Overview. Psychology is accepted as a factual science because it uses the scientific method that relies on empirical evidence and undergoes peer review, rather than depending on gut feelings or personal guesses. The field builds its knowledge through systemic observation and testing. Now, that is a standard answer you will get no matter where you get your information from. When I read those words, the answer was ridiculous to me. Of course it's going to pass peer review, because what is it psychology based on? Human and animal instinct and nature. Those two things never change, other than one could adapt to their environment, which would be another example of human and animal nature at work. In other words, they built a field by observing what we already are and what we have always done, and then dressed it up as a discovery. And here is where it gets serious, because this is not just about a doctor's office. This is the same root. Remember Sigmund Freud from our earlier episodes. Freud is where this whole tree grows from. The idea that the human mind is a broken machine, that a specialized class of experts has to interpret and manage for you. That is the exact same idea Walter Lippmann and Edward Bernays took and pointed at the entire population. Freud gave them the map of the mind. Lippmann and Bernays used it to steer the herd, and the progressive movement carried it the rest of the way to where we are today. So when I say philosophy has crushed the human spirit, this is what I mean. It taught people to distrust their own reasoning and to hand it over to an expert. And that is the most valuable thing you can ever get a free person to give up. Now, here's where what I want to hand to you. Do not take my word for any of it. Ask yourself the question I did. What did we do before? And ask who benefits when you are taught that you cannot understand your own mind without paying someone to explain it to you. Reason it out for yourself. I hope this episode was able to get you to say to yourself, maybe he's got something there, or he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Either way, I don't care. I care about you coming up with your own answers based upon your own research and your own reasoning skills. And then we can and make a comment so we can discuss about it. Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And please, please hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.